You think about pen testing, is all hacking, right? I'm just going to go out there and I'm just going to hack the world and hack the Gibson and, all this other stuff, right? And they forget that at some point in time, you have to write a report, and that report has to articulate what you did. And then you probably have to present said report to somebody at that point in time. And they send me a message. They're like, Neal, I want you to be my mentor, or Neal, I've chosen you to be my mentor. And I'm like, that's not how a mentorship works. That's just not how that works. And most people forget that mentorship is a two-way street. Networking is the most important thing. Your network will provide you with the most insane, valuable career advice that you could have, whether you're first starting out or whether you're a CISO going for a board position. Your network is the most invaluable resource. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Do not put so much pressure on yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare your successes or failures to other people's successes or failures. We say that so frequently. And I can't even begin to describe how small my world got. There I was in the ER. It's 2:00 in the morning, in pain, getting told I have cancer. And so that first quarter, that first 3 months, there was a very, very surreal feeling that I wasn't going to make it to the next black hat, to the black hat coming up this year.
Now, Neal, before we get into the interview, I've seen you put a lot of photos out. Something to do with golf, is that right? This is your new thing, right?
It is my new thing. It's interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about this in the videos. We talk about perspective and we talk about life changing. But golf has been a very good distraction for me. There's been a lot of parallels between what I've learned in golf and what I've learned in my cybersecurity career. Things like patience, things like focusing on the mental game, things like I have a mantra when I go play golf where there's no such thing as a bad shot. There's either good shots or good misses. And that right there's your cybersecurity mantra in a nutshell. There are no bad shots. There are either good shots or good misses. If you didn't get hit by WannaCry, guess what that was? That was a good miss. You may not have patched that Windows box. You just missed that one. And so, golf has taken a pretty huge center frame to how I relieve stress, how I stay mentally right. And I have a pretty huge goal. I have a pretty lofty goal. I want to make it to the PGA. I'm getting kind of long in the tooth, and so I've never been a professional golfer. And so I'm gonna take a new journey, and I'm gonna stretch myself a little bit, and I'm gonna join the Professional Golf Association.
So for all of you watching, do me a favor, go and show your love to Neal. As you watch this video, you'll see why this is such an important thing. Please go and subscribe, go and show the love. I've put all the links below. Now let's cut to the interview. Everyone, David Bombal back with a very, very special guest. Neal, it's been way too long.
Absolutely. I can't believe that I'm sitting here on camera with you again after so long. What a wild ride it's been. Hey, listen, before you get into asking me a question, I do want to congratulate you on all your success. I have been watching you. It's been great to continue to see you grow. Congratulations on 1 million. Happy birthday to you again. It's weird that I've been a part of a few birthdays with you now over the last few years. And listen, just congratulations to you. It's good to see you continue to be awesome.
I appreciate it, Neal. So just for everyone who doesn't know Neal, I've linked some videos below. One of the very first videos that we did, which is quite a while ago, it's like 2 years ago, I think. Neal and I kind of set this up very, very quickly. Like I met Neal on the Monday, on Wednesday, interviewed him. Thursday or something, the video was out, and that video's done great. It's over 1 million views. And what I love about Neal is Neal doesn't beat around the bush, and he gives it to us straight. And he has a lot of experience. And what I really enjoyed in that video is he had Neal's top 3 things. So I'm going to try and extract top 3 things to get into cyber, top 3 things you need to know in life. But Neal, let's just switch gears for a second. You've had quite a journey in the last 8 months or so. Tell us about that, because I think that puts a real perspective on life and your career and everything. And I think it's great to hear, input from someone like you who's been in this journey. Because, we can fight about or bicker about small things in life, but there's much more important things. So I want to hand it to you. Take us for this ride, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, it has been pretty interesting. And thanks to everybody who has been longtime listeners of your channel, who has reached out to me in various forms, very unexpectedly. And I want to keep everybody paying attention to one word that you said there. You said perspective, and that's going to be a huge theme. That I've realized. Right. In September, it was literally less than a month after we'd come back from Black Hat and DEF CON. I met some fantastic people. I met Chris Greer, which I know you've done a lot of work with Chris here recently. I met Chris for the first time in person. We'd chat over DMs for a while, but I met him in person. An amazing dude. It was so great to chat with him. But come back from Black Hat and DEF CON, and the wife was out of town on business. I went to bed one night feeling good. Woke up the next morning and had a terrible abdominal pain. It was pain like I'd never experienced my entire life. And also on top of that, just a little background. I'm very open about this. Like I enjoy talking about this very much. So there's no question off limits about this, but because I do think it's important to share this journey. But so I woke up on Monday and I had a terrible abdominal pain. I did what any man does. I ignored it.
But you're not allowed to admit to that, but yes.
Exactly. There's that directness that we talk about, right? I ignored it. I was like, you know what? It's probably just gas or being old or who knows, right? I just came back from Black Hat. Maybe I caught something. Who knows, right? Ignored it for about 24 hours. I didn't sleep Monday night. Woke up Tuesday morning. I was like, okay, this is either really serious or I ate something really terrible, right? Tried to make it through the day on Tuesday, talked to the wife a couple times, got to be about Tuesday night. The wife was like, hey, listen, I did some Google research because, the best doctors in the world always do some Google research before they diagnose you. And she's like, I'm worried that your appendix might be bursting. So I think you should go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And who am I to argue with my wife? My wife tells me to go to the hospital.
We know who the boss is.
Yep. Like, okay, if the wife's getting involved, the wife's telling me I gotta go to the hospital. I guess I gotta go to the hospital, right? So I go to the hospital, and the ER is never fun, and it's always a terrible trip. And so I get to the ER, they take me back. Probably 3 hours later, because nothing moves fast in the ER. They take me back and they do a CT scan on my abdomen. And then they take me back and let me lay in bed for another hour and a half, 2 hours while they wait for the results. They pull me back to a doctor's office.
Yeah.
After about a couple hours. And that's vastly different because in the ER, right, it's pretty open bay. And so like they're going around from room to room telling people, what's going on with them. They actually grabbed me and they took me back to a closed room. And I was like, oh shit, this is bad. I'm going to take you back to a closed room. And he pulled up the CT scan and he showed a mass in my abdomen. And he was like, he goes, do you see that right there? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, do you know what that is? And you get that moment where you're going to tell me it's cancer. You're going to tell me it's cancer. And I said, no, I don't know what that is. Hoping that I was wrong, right? Hoping that it was fear. And no, he goes, yeah, that's a tumor. You've got a tumor in your abdomen. You've got cancer. And I can't even begin to describe how small my world got. There I was in the ER. Again, remember, my wife's out on town on business, so I'm there by myself. It's 2:00 in the morning, in pain, getting told I have cancer. God, the size of my world just shrank. I can still remember just feeling ungodly surreal. There's lots of things that I learned about cancer, right? I mean, it's the number one killer, in all of America. It's it happens to come across like a large percentage of people. It's more common than you realize.
Yep.
You just never think it's going to happen to you. At the time, they had pre-diagnosed it as lymphoma just because of where it was in my abdomen. That was obviously not the end of my roller coaster. They obviously kept me in the hospital overnight. The wife, got up first thing in the morning and drove home. They sent me to another hospital to go get a biopsy done. I laugh about the biopsy because it was weird how they did the biopsy. And the easiest way that I describe when they go do the biopsy, right? So I get to the hospital the next day, they're going to do a biopsy. Imagine somebody takes a straw and they stick a straw in my abdomen and they've got like this little poker that they like stick through the straw into my abdomen, and they're literally fishing around the inside of my abdomen as they're like trying to find this tumor to take a biopsy. It was super weird. But anyway, so that was on a Thursday. Sent me home on a Friday. So I had the weekend to think about it. Obviously, we knew we had cancer. We were trying not to be overly emotional, but obviously we were pretty emotional over the weekend. We had to follow up a meeting on Tuesday to basically get the results of the biopsy. Tuesday rolls around, and we go to the doctor. We go to the appointment on Tuesday, and I pause because like I'm reliving it. Right? It's
man. I can't imagine, Neal. I can't imagine.
The doctor walks in, Dave, with 4 other doctors. And again, your mind just goes like, this can't be good. This can't be good. And he sits down, and he's like, you have metastasized melanoma. You have stage 4 melanoma. And the wife and I that was it. Like it was both over. It was over the boundaries for us. We just both burst out into tears. It was pretty devastating. Melanoma's got left untreated, which obviously everybody chooses treatment, but left untreated, it has a 17% survival rating past 12 months. And it had already been metastasized. They had found 3 tumors. Long and short of it is they'd found 3 tumors. One on my left lung, one on my abdomen, and one on my left thigh. Most people think that it's related to skin cancer because melanoma is associated with skin cancer. I had 3 different dermatologists look at me. They couldn't find a single sign of any existing skin lesion or any past skin lesion. So they ruled out, traditional skin cancer. They ruled out that I'd left some lesion unchecked that had eventually developed into cancer. To this day, the doctors have no idea why I developed melanoma. It just happened. Fast forward a little bit. We obviously took a break from streaming. We took a break from a lot of stuff. We got really lucky. We started immunotherapy the very next Friday. We got into Duke University, which is one of the best cancer hospitals in the States. We started immunotherapy, and I have to say that was I've seen people on chemo, and I won't even begin to say that this was as bad as chemo, because it surely wasn't. It definitely had its hardships. I was tired a lot. I lost 20 more pounds being that first month on immunotherapy because of loss of appetite. Wow. As you can tell, it's funny to joke that my hair is white. This is not old age, because if you go look at pictures of me from Black Hat and DEF CON, it was still very, very dark.
Yep.
This is so because I have melanoma, because the immunotherapy is trying to kill the melanin cells in my body, it has basically discolored all of the hair on my entire body. It's all over me. Not that I'm complaining about that, right? I didn't have a whole lot of hair on my head to begin with, as it is. But it does add a little bit of a distinguished look to the persona.
You're an elder now.
Yeah, I'm an elder, exactly. I just need like some long hair like Gandalf or something like that, right. and a cape.
That's right.
But yeah, so I've been. I mean, look, that's enough of the sad shit, right? I can't believe until you and I talked about it, I didn't realize it'd been 10 months. We've been on. We're entering our 10 month on this journey. I've been through 10 months of immunotherapy, and I'm doing good. The tumor has two of the 3 tumors. So the tumor in my lung and the tumor in my thigh have all. It's hard to say they've gone away. There's no evidence that they're there anymore. Right. Meaning that the scans that they use to check for cancer can't detect those tumors anymore. The one in my abdomen has shrank pretty significantly, but I think one of the things that so I'm on the up and up. I'm on the up and up. Like I joke around, and I can joke around this, and I can be comfortable saying this. I'm dying less than I was in September. Right. Yeah. I think. One of the big things that has hit me is that this is my life now.
Yep.
Like there is no, this isn't like COVID where it's like you get 7 days and it's gone, or, you know, a weekend cold or a hangover or anything like that. This is my life now. Like I will be dealing with this for the rest of my life.
It's two things that stand out to me, Neal, is that you can actually joke about it after such a difficult time. You know, I can't imagine what you're going through and what you've gone through. And secondly is perspective, right? The stuff that's really important becomes really important. Like for me, my daughters, I almost lost my youngest daughter when she was only a few months old. My eldest daughter when she was only a few months old. And nothing else mattered but trying to save that life. And, you know, I always say people bicker and fight on cyber. I've said to you, I find cyber very toxic, and people throw a lot of shade at each other. And to me, it's like pointless, because when it's life, when it's the important things, that stuff means nothing.
Yeah. The perspective thing, I think, was really huge for me, right? I've spent my entire career in this industry, right? I've been at it my entire life. I've been a grinder, you know, my entire life. I've always given 110% of myself, 150% of myself to my career, my profession, and my talent. You know, I've achieved, you know, the highest position, you know, you can get in cyber. I don't know when this will air, but I'm interviewing for a board of directors position.
Oh,
right.
Congrats.
You know, thank you. You know, and so I can say that like my career has reached, a pretty high pinnacle.
Yep.
At that moment, in those moments where I was dealing with the realization of how short my life was, and I turned 44 just last week. Whenever this airs, you know, it was just a couple weeks ago, right? At 44, getting diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, realizing how short my life has been up until that point, and how much shorter my life could be in the future. You know, the last thing that I thought about. My cybersecurity career. That was the last thing that was running through my head. I couldn't realize the things that I stressed about. I couldn't realize the things that I thought were so important up until that moment. The things that I prioritized over my health up until that moment. It was perspective is a great way to put it. None of that stuff mattered. You know what mattered? My family, my friends, existence.
I remember you were saying you had like 70% people last a year, right? So you were looking at like, I'm not going to make a year.
That first quarter before that first scan. So you usually go about 3 months worth of treatment, and then they do a scan to see how your body has responded to the treatment, to see if the tumors have responded to the treatment, to see if things are going to move in a positive direction. So that first quarter, that first 3 months, there was a very, very surreal feeling that I wasn't going to make it to the next black hat, to the black hat coming up this year. That was a hard thought that the wife and I were living with on a day-to-day basis.
So Neal, I introed this about the top 3 things. And I think we need to talk about top 3 things in life, like your personal life. And I think you're going to say health, I think would be one of those. But let's talk about 3 things in life, but also like 3 things you can do in your career. You know, just advise. I think it's important. You've got this perspective now. What would you advise yourself or anyone else? Let's say they're 21. And I mean, I don't want to just put it to a young age, but anyone 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. If you were looking down, if you were talking to yourself again, what would you advise? Like health, life, career, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with the health, since we started with that topic, right? I did not prioritize my health, and what does that mean, right? I praised myself, and I bragged, and I held it as a badge of honor that there were numerous years where I got less than 3 and 4 hours of sleep a night.
Wow.
I
for a whole year.
For multiple years, David,
wow,
multiple years,
wow.
Including years in the military, including years since being out of the military, where I didn't get a lot of sleep. I said, no, I'm going to grind. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to put it to the test. I don't have the exact statistics on me, and I know how your audience loves to fact check my statistics frequently.
Ignore the haters. Ignore the haters. That's the thing. It's perspective, right? Perspective, man. That means nothing. I think it's the older you get, the more perspective, that kind of stuff is irrelevant. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're 100%. But there's a crazy statistic, and I didn't realize this, about how the body goes to repair itself when you sleep.
Yeah.
And the 8 hours of sleep, like I can tell you, when I was getting zero sleep because I had a tumor, growing inside of my belly, was some of the most restless sleep that I'd ever gotten. When I started to put, effort into getting 8 hours of sleep, I started to actually, like, the doctor was like, hey, I need you to get 8 hours of sleep every night. He's like, it will actually help your body repair in addition to having the treatment. And so like health is ridiculously important. And we're talking physical health. We're talking physical health here because I ate like shit. I drank like a sailor. I got no sleep. And I lived in a sense of a physical stress position for well over a decade. It was well over a decade. And that is something that I would go back and I would change. I would wholeheartedly prioritize my own personal physical health, over anything else that I had done. And so like, I think when we talk about health, my number one thing is prioritize your physical health. Go to the gym. And I'm not talking like, you ain't gotta be swole. You ain't gotta be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You don't have to be Dave Kennedy.
Yeah. No, you don't have to be Dave Kennedy. You don't have to be, any of these guys. Chris Russell is another one. He does great videos on Twitter, fantastic, cybersecurity professional. He goes to the gym and dude's buff as hell, right? You don't have to be those guys. Like, go take a 15-minute walk. Right? If you take 15 minutes, like there is definitive proof that a 15-minute walk every day helps you mentally and helps you physically. Right? It's that easy.
I'll just say this because we get criticism, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't be like Dave Kennedy if you can, because I wish I looked like that and some of these other guys. So if you can do that, more power to you, as they say. I wish I could, but I love what you're saying. Do something. That's for you, for yourself.
Yeah, just move your body. Just move your body. The second health piece. And I know you and I have talked about this on your shows before, but we don't talk about it enough. Mental health. My oncologist, when my oncologist started this journey with me, so for those who don't know, an oncologist is somebody who specializes in cancer.
I was going to ask you, what is that?
Yeah. It's a doctor that specializes in cancer, right?
Okay.
He said, we're gonna put you on immunotherapy, and this is how we're gonna fight the cancer inside of you. And it's like, cool, great. And he goes, all right, let me prescribe for you some other things that I need you to do this. And I'm like, great, ready. And I'm waiting for him to give me like a list of medicine that he's going to give me. Yeah. And he goes, I want you to remove the stress from your life. And I was like, come again, say what? Mental stress is we don't talk about it enough in cyber, and we do talk about it. We kind of gloss over burnout and things like this. Yeah. We kind of gloss over, what it means to always be ahead of all the threat, threat actors and threat groups and threat intelligence that's out there. We talk about it in terms of like, we've always got to be on the leading edge of our training or certifications or education or stuff like that. But I can tell you that, and this is so wild, David. I would have stressful weeks at work, right? So I work for a startup. I know we'll get to the career stuff here in a little bit, but I work for a startup, and a startup is anything but non-stress, right? I mean, we are literally fighting for our lives every day at a startup. And I can tell you that weeks that I've been stressed and had to go to the doctor, my blood work was off the chart. Mental stress affects you at the cellular level. And it wasn't perspective. I wasn't able to see that until I had a stressful week, went to the doctor on Friday for a treatment, and saw how jacked up my blood work was because of stress. And so work on your mental stress. That's point number 2. Work on your mental stress. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Do not put so much pressure on yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare your successes or failures to other people's successes or failures. We say that so frequently. Your behind the scenes should not be compared to somebody else's highlight reel.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're not there. You're not there. Yeah. You've had different experiences, different life journeys, different goals and accomplishments. Like, it's like take that stress out of your mind 100%. Don't put that stress on you. We all want to do well at work. These are trying economic times. I've known several people in our community, in the cybersecurity community, that have gotten laid off. Like, it happens to everybody.
Your value is not determined by your job.
Yes.
Your value is not your work. I mean, I think it's a different American perspective. Sometimes find people put their values based on what they earn and their positions in life. That's not your value.
And I think that kind of gets to number 3. right? Yeah. The number 3 thing that this whole cancer journey has kind of like put forth to me from a perspective, friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
You know, if there's a segment I'll cry at, this will be the segment I cry at. Yeah, I told you this is starting already.
Don't worry.
You don't have to cut this out. You know, if it, you know, I think it's important for people to see this. I had a friend, as soon as you know, old military buddy, lives down the street here. As soon as we told the news to them, you know, once we felt comfortable doing it, he works at the VA. He literally took the day off of work, came to the house, and helped me fill out paperwork for a little known VA benefit based on the fact that I was in Afghanistan and that I now had this disease, to help me get a VA benefit that would effectively pass on to my wife and my kids when I pass. Nobody ever told me about it. I've been out of the military for 10 years, was in the military for 10. So for the last 20 years, never known about this. Comes to the house proactively and says, we got to make sure you're taken care of. We got to make sure your family's taken care of. And he spends 4 hours there with me that afternoon, you know, getting some VA benefits put in place for my family if I pass.
That's fantastic. And I'll say this, Neal, you phoned me when my channel got hacked. And I think that was just before you knew what was going on. And if it wasn't for you, it could have been a lot worse. So again, you know, I want to thank you so much for being a good friend. And I really appreciate it, man. And I'm glad that person helped you. And it's something important, you know. I think you can get so focused on your career that you lose your friends or you lose your family. Don't lose those important things in your life.
They will matter more to you at the right times than you ever will realize.
So you're talking to your younger self. The flip side of that is, or you're talking to someone else who's starting. The flip side of that is, I know that through hard work and determination, I was able to get myself from not such a great place to a much better place. And there's so many stories of people like that who will say, "Look, I don't live in the US, or I don't come from a great family. I don't have a trust fund or whatever. The only way I get out of this is grit and determination." So, tell us perhaps we can switch to careers now. Yeah. What are your top 3 top things for that?
Yeah, and I was scrolling through my normal news feed this morning, and I very much believe in the human experience.
Yeah.
Right. And if anything, this journey has really taught me that there are some people out there who mentally will do whatever it takes to overcome the adversities that are placed in front of their lives. There's a lot of people who will wake up every morning, go do their job, go do their 9 to 5, go home, do their things in the evening, go to sleep, wake up and do it. And they'll do it every day, and they'll do it for 30 years. They'll do it for 50 years. They don't care. They're okay with that. And that life is okay for some people. They are okay with that. There is a subset of people out there, and I think you're one of them. I think I definitely know I'm one of them, having watched where I've come up from and, you know, what I've gotten to. You know, I know that there are people who listen to this who look at you and look at and hold us to a place that's like, I want to be at that level. And I think that that's good. I think having aspirations of where you want to be helps, again, back to perspective, helps to keep that career in perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think that you have to find it in yourself. There's that mental discipline that says, I will achieve that. If you are that type of person, if you can be that type of person, let's talk about your career for a second, because I know that we've done several of these, like, you know, career things over the last couple of years. I know I've talked extensively about it on my channel. I think, you know, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. We said it on the very first video that you and I did, networking.
Yeah.
Networking is the most important thing, regardless of whether you want to be a hacker for your entire 20 or 30 years in cybersecurity, or whether you want to be a CISO, or whether you want to be a board of directors. It does not matter. Your network is so ridiculously important. I can give you several examples. I can give you examples from within the last 12 months, right? I needed some. I told you I work for a startup, right? I've held executive level positions at Fortune 100 companies, right?
Yep,
When I pick up the phone at a Fortune 100 company and I call my friends at insert any cybersecurity vendor here, and I'm like, hey, I'm Neal from company X, they automatically, whether you like it or not, right? Their mind goes, oh, this dude's got like $50 million of a cybersecurity budget. I'm going to talk to him because maybe I can get me a portion of that $50 million.
Of course.
and so everybody, when you're at a startup, nobody talks to you. They're like, Neal has no money. Except for people in my network. And so we had a problem with a particular software vendor. I'm not going to rat this software vendor out, and literally I had a help desk ticket. I've been remanded to help desk, David. I don't even have people I can call anymore at a startup. I had a help desk ticket in with this company, with this cybersecurity company, for 4 weeks because I wanted to give them more money. I actually had money I wanted to give them. And for 4 weeks, I got ignored from a help desk ticket. And finally, I got fed up the other day and I went to people who were in my network and I said, hey, listen, like, I know you guys wouldn't let me, be treated like this if I was at insert Fortune 100 company here. Are you going to let me get treated like this because I'm at a startup now? And been back to friends and back to your network. They were like, oh, hell no. Hell no. And they intervened and they helped out and we got it all worked out right in the end. Having your network helps you get a job, helps you solve problems at companies, helps you when you have to bounce ideas. You know how many times there are people in our cybersecurity industry, people that your audience has probably watched who call me and they're like, Neal, I need advice on this. Neal, I need advice on that. Neal, you've probably seen this in your career. Can you guide me in this direction? Right? Whether it's not just from how to get into cyber, but it's like, what software solution to pick? What strategy should I have to do this? I'm having problems with this mentality. Can you help me with this? Right? There are CEOs and CIOs and CTOs and CISOs from other companies who call me up and they're like, hey, Neal, I'm dealing with this challenge. Can you help me? Your network is so important from everything from your job perspective to solving problems in the future. Your network will provide you with the most insane, valuable career advice that you could have, whether you're first starting out or whether you're a CISO going for a board position. Your network is the most invaluable resource in your career, period.
You've always said that.
And I think if you talk to people who have executed on that advice, they're having oh my God moments right now where they're like, shit, Neal was right. Like, this is awesome.
I'm a firm believer in that as well. It's who you know. And the more people you know, the easier it gets.
Yep, exactly. So then the second piece is kind of the second part of that career piece is always be learning. And we talk about that. I think that's another one that we pay a lot of lip service to in this industry. Always be learning has nothing to do with certifications. Like, let's get that out of the way, right? Like, I'm not talking about like you need to have a certification on your roadmap every year. Like, I'm going to be really cynical, especially now that I'm not working for a particular, training and education company anymore. The certification game is a fucking racket.
Can I use that as an intro? No, I'm kidding. Go on.
Go ahead. It is. Listen, here's the thing. Everybody loves the certification race at the beginning of their career.
I was going to say that. Yeah. It's important in the beginning.
Yep. Everybody loves the certification race at the beginning of their career. But you'll notice that the longer in the tooth you are in this career, you realize how much of a racket that business is. And so, like, when I say always be learning, it's not about certifications. Learn from your network. Learn from people like David. Like, the amount of tribal knowledge that exists in the human experience in cybersecurity is unlike anything that you'll ever learn in a book or in a YouTube video or in a certification. Like, people have asked me for years to do certifications. There is nothing that there's no way to convey the experiences that I have in cybersecurity in a way that's going to be able to translate into a proper certification for people. Anybody can teach hacking, right? Anybody can teach blue teaming stuff. But to get the life experiences of sitting on a console and dealing with WannaCry, right? And dealing with a Fortune 100 company that is trying to basically fight against a virus that is coming directly at them, that is going to shut down a manufacturing line that produces $10 million a day for that company, right? You can't simulate that, right? And so you have to learn from people. You have to always be learning. You have to always be out there talking to people. You always have to be out there, reading white papers, always be out there reading, other people's research, other people's studies, other people's lessons learned, other people's, learning from talks about experiences. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about always be learning. Like, it's not about certifications.
Yeah, the thing is, the kind of stuff that you're talking about, it's difficult you can't certify that. It's experience. And I agree with you. I mean, I did my CCIE over 20 years ago now. It was fantastic to do it. And I'm still a firm believer in certifications in the beginning. But like you say, as your network grows, as you get more well-known, it's just one metric, and other metrics become more important, right? It's like when I talk to you and I speak to other people in the industry, you can't learn 20 years in a 3-week boot camp. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to sit. I love these kind of interviews where I sit like with the audience and we just listen to people share their experiences and their knowledge, because I think you can learn a lot from a 1-hour interview or something when just listening to someone share their heart or share their experience. You learn so much.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. This is why, like, I've done 2 rounds of internships now with my company. And I'd challenge anybody to go talk to any of my interns who've been part of that program, who want to share their experiences. I don't teach technical stuff. Like, I don't teach them how to do technical stuff. Like, they can go learn that. And I've got an intern now who's like, who literally came to me. He's like, Neal, I don't want you to teach me anything technical. He's like, I can go learn that. I can go learn that from a $9 Udemy class. Right. Exactly. Yeah. He's like, I want you to teach me the stuff that I can't learn in a Udemy class. Yeah. Right. And that's the stuff that you get from just sheer experience in this industry. Nobody can teach you that in a certification class.
So it sounds like you should try and get a mentor, right? Or mentors, people who have walked the journey, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a fantastic kind of third piece from a career perspective is always have what you would refer to as a mentor. And I want to clarify something, right? I get a ton of DMs from people who see a video of you and I together, and they send me a message. They're like, Neal, I want you to be my mentor, or Neal, I've chosen you to be my mentor. And I'm like, that's not how a mentorship works. That's just not how that works. Yep. Mentorship is important. And again, this is something, whether you're beginning or whether you've got 20 years in the industry. Like, I've got mentors now. Like, I've been in this for my entire career, and I've got mentors now. Like when I took this CISO role for the startup that I'm at now, I called and consulted with my mentors before I took it. I told you I'm interviewing for a board of directors job. I called current mentors now and got advice on how to approach this journey from a board of directors position. So there's mentors at every space in your career. What's good for you as a mentor at your junior years may not be the right mentor for you at your senior years. But one of the things that I think is misconstrued, and I actually did a video on this. I had Caitlin O'Connie, who ran a fantastic mentorship program called Battleship Security. And she brought up a really good point that most people forget, that mentorship is a 2-way street. Like, you should be coming to somebody that you want to mentor you and say, listen, I need you as a mentor. Here's what I think you can do for me. And in return, here's what I'm going to do for you. And again, there's no right or wrong answer to what that is, right? It could be a barter system. It could be an emotional system. Maybe listen, I had one DM. This DM I took the individual up on their offer. He said, Neal, I see you're on a multi-year. This was obviously before the cancer diagnosis, on a multi-year physical training journey. Ever since I've been on this journey, I've lost over 50 pounds. If you can imagine Neal 50 pounds heavier. Yeah. He said, I spent 10 years in the physical training industry. I will do meal plans for you. I'll do custom workout plans for you, and I'll help you on your journey if you'll mentor me in cybersecurity.
That's great.
He took stuff that he was trying to, from a previous career that he had.
That's great.
And said, I will help you with this if you'll help me with cybersecurity. That's the type, like, you see that. And if you ask anybody to be your mentor and that's how you approach mentorship, I don't know of a single mentor, unless they're just insanely busy and they just don't have the time to do it. There's not a single mentor in the world to be like, I absolutely could use somebody like that, and to help me out.
It's a proposition, isn't it? It's rather than give me. It's like, I can offer you this, but I'd like you to give me that in return. It's a totally different proposition.
It is. And that's what mentorship is all about, right? And mentorship isn't, hey Neal, I can't get Nmap to work. How do I get Nmap to work? Right? That's not mentorship. That's not mentorship. Mentorship is Neal, I'm dealing with this life challenge. Mentorship is Neal, I'm dealing with this issue in cybersecurity. Neal, we just had our first incident. This was what happened. This is how I went through it in my head. This is how I reacted. Can you help me better prepare for the next incident?
That's a great example because you mentored me through that hack. And that's exactly what you told me, David, do this. So I will say this, if it wasn't for Neal, my incident response would have been really bad.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that though. How did I help you?
Oh, you phoned me in the time of need, right? You saw that there was something happening. You phoned me straight away and you said, David, you need to do this right now. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of things you did. You said, stuff that I didn't think about. You have to speak well, in the UK, it's slightly different, but I had to speak to the ICO in the UK about the data breach. And then I proactively emailed a lot of people, even though I suppose I didn't actually need to do it, but I was very proactive, and it wasn't me. I can't say I was proactive. I was proactive because of you, because you said, David, you should take these steps. And actually, the result of all of that was a lot of people were like really happy that complimented that. We actually told people, look, we weren't sure if data had been breached. The ICO in the UK said, don't worry about it, because if emails get leaked, that's not important. So I didn't have to report anything, didn't have to do anything, because there wasn't actually a leak. It was just this YouTube hack that had been going around. But we were very proactive, and I remember it clearly, Neal. You were phoning me and you say, David, you need to calm down now. You need to do this, and this. Yep.
Yeah.
In your time of need, right?
Well, I mean, you're a friend. And we have a very good relationship, and self-sacrifice is an interesting thing. I couldn't watch a friend go through that, regardless of what I had going on. I wasn't laying in the ER, and I didn't have somebody sticking a poker in me to do a biopsy. I could put aside my mental troubles long enough to help you out through that. But I think the point I was trying to make was, that mentorship may not have felt like mentorship at the time.
Yeah.
And I know you've done cybersecurity content over the years, but I saw that there was a gap that I could help with. And you've always been a really good friend. You've been a really good mentor to me through my content creation journey. Obviously, you're the biggest content creator that I know and associate with, and I've taken a lot of your teachings, that we've had in private, and I've applied them to my own channel. And so whether we've had an established mentorship relationship or not, I saw an opportunity that I had a skill set that you didn't have, that I could put it to work and help you, recover from that. And so that's that. If people are listening to that story, like, that may not sound like, hey, I didn't text David and say, David, will you be my mentor in content creation? David didn't text me and say, hey, Neal, will you be my mentor when it comes to if my YouTube channel ever gets hacked? That's just the result of a combination of good friendship and knowing that he has mentored me through this content creation journey that I've been on for the last couple of years, and seeing that I had an opportunity to give back to him for all of that help that he's given me, just at a time of need that he needed it. And that's what mentorship is. That it's a two-way street. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would encourage people to kind of go back and forth with. It's a two-way street.
And in teamwork and friendship, one person has always got a strength the other doesn't have. I'm stronger than you in certain areas, and you're much stronger than me in certain areas. We go further as a team rather than trying to do everything alone.
Yeah. I think we forget that in this cyber industry. I think we're naturally competitive in this industry. And I think that natural competitiveness changes our perspective to realize that it's all of us against all the bad stuff that's out there in the world, and we shouldn't be infighting each other.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's strange. You're on the same team, but you're fighting each other. Rather take that effort and point it towards the common enemy of trying to solve the breaches, solve the hacks, that kind of thing, rather than fighting amongst each other on Twitter. It's like, what's the point of that?
Listen, we are all going to get hacked. Like everybody's YouTube channels. I mean, listen, like my YouTube channel, is nowhere near the size of yours, but I get hack attempts all the time. Like everybody, from me to you to John to everybody. Like we saw recently, Dragos. I know Rob Lee. I've had Rob Lee on my stream. Rob Lee and I were friends in the Air Force. We both worked at the agency together. He was a SANS instructor. I was a SANS instructor, right? I knew Rob really well. Fucking wicked smart dude. Does some amazing work with Dragos. in the industrial controls space, right? Dragos had a hacking attempt, right? They had somebody get compromised, on their team. It happens to everybody, right? You will not, if you are listening to this, it's not a matter of you will never get hacked. It's just a matter it hasn't been your time yet. You just haven't had it happen to you. Everybody is going to get hacked. The sooner you realize that, the better off you are, because then you realize David and I, even though we're a 6-hour plane ride from each other on the East Coast to England, right? We're right next to each other in the trenches of cyber warfare. We are both holding a gun, pointed at the enemy in the trenches of cyber warfare.
I spoke recently to Troy Hunt, and you only have to go onto his website and put your email address in, and you can see your data there.
Mm-hmm. Have I been phoned?
Yeah, exactly. If it's not you personally, it's someone that you're associated with.
Yeah. It's a matter of time.
So, Neal, a lot of people watching may be new on their journey, but they're not going to stay where they are. They're going to look maybe 10 years, 5 years, whatever down the line, and they might be eyeing a CISO position. You've done that. You've been like NSA, hardcore hacking stuff, and then you went to CISO. Any advice for that journey?
Yeah. There's a lot of considerations there, right? And one of the things that I'll kind of preface this by saying, like, I pride myself on being a CISO and also being technical, right? Yeah. And when I say technical, I want everybody to understand what that means. Like, I've never taken my hands off the keyboard. I do side gigs all the time. I have an entire gig ecosystem that I talk about on my stream. I have a business that I run, where I do professional services for folks, anything from pen testing to managed detection response to threat hunting, and so like that's been a personal goal of mine through this journey, is because I refuse to be a desk jockey, and I refuse to be somebody who isn't in touch with the technical side of cybersecurity, right? So that's been personal to me. So I want everybody to understand that I'm not just giving you, I'm giving you the advice of somebody who's sat in exactly the seat that you're sitting in now, who's probably sat in it longer than you will in this industry, and probably still does more of it, on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, than most of you will do at the height of your career, right? And I say all that to say there are definitely some things that I did not learn when I was sitting in your seat, when I was sitting in that technical seat, when I was sitting in that analyst seat, when I was sitting in that level 1, level 2, when I was in the first 5 years of my cybersecurity career, there were things that I did not learn. They're crushing me now. They are killing me now. And that first and foremost thing, is business acumen.
Yeah.
Now, I'll remind everybody, I don't have a 4-year degree. Like, I'm not coming to you from somebody who spent 4 years in a comp sci degree or 4 years in a cybersecurity degree. I don't have a 4-year degree. I definitely don't have an MBA, right? I don't have a business degree at all. And I can tell you that having to learn the business skills to be successful when you get to a manager, a director, or a CISO level, that is the stuff that will make you fail in those executive roles, hand over fist. And I'm not talking like, this isn't a plug to go out and get your MBA. I'm not advocating to go out and get your MBA by any stretch of the imagination. Talk to people with MBAs and they're like, that MBA has served me no good inside of the cybersecurity arena. But I could definitely say that understanding like how to read a 10K. If you're working for a United States company, if you're a United States person who has an interest in working for a US company, or anybody else who has the interest in working for a US company, go read a publicly traded company's 10K. The SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, requires that every company put out 10K. That explains to you the business priorities of that company. Why is that important, Neal? The business priorities help you understand if you're going to say you have to do a penetration test, does your penetration test align with the business priorities of the company? And saying that it'll keep the company secure is not aligning to the business priorities of the company. If you're going to advocate for a $5 million investment for an EDR solution or an XDR solution or a SIM solution, and you say, well, we need it because we have to be secure, that's not articulating to the company what the need is to spend $5 million on cybersecurity. You have to be able to articulate that. And the best way to do that is to have more business acumen than I guarantee you most people have out there right now.
Sound advice. I think the older you get, the more, if you want to progress, you're going to get more and more to management. And Business skills, soft skills, stuff like that becomes more and more important. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to bifurcate the business skills and the soft skills, because that's going to be number two. Is my soft skills. The business skills, let me give you. I want to. You know me. I'm a huge fan of like giving people something that they can take away from this video that they can do right now. Right. If you're not in management, but you know that that's on your trajectory, and you want to practice those business skills. I know most of you want to go to Black Hat or DEF CON. I know most of you want more certifications and training. The easiest way that you can practice your business skills is by writing a business case for your leadership for those two things. Because you have to justify to leadership why they should invest $5,000. I guess it shows how old I am. That's how much SANS certs were when I was around. $7,000 now for a SANS cert plus T&E, right? You got to justify that. It's easily $15,000 to $20,000 for a trip to Black Hat and DEF CON, right? If you stay the whole week in Vegas and eat in Vegas the entire time and attend both conferences, it's easily $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, right? And so like you have to justify what the business is going to get out of it by sending you there. And so if you want to do something today that helps you learn about business, go write business cases for a new certification or to go to Black Hat or DEF CON. I think the second thing, kind of you hit the nail on the head, right, is those soft skills, right? So that's the second thing that I think is important. So I've obviously been doing a ton of mentoring, over the last couple of years. I've seen numerous people fail interviews simply because they lack soft skills. There's something that I think has been lost in our conversation over the last couple of years when it talks about getting a job. And that's that people will disqualify you if they don't think you're a good fit. And that fit comes from a certain amount of ability to be able to communicate with people. And I'm not talking like being poetically articulate or, you don't have to be Tony Robbins or anything up there when I talk about that, but you've got to be able to talk to people. You got to be able to have a conversation. You got to be able to present. I think this is lost on people when they think about pen testing. They think about pen testing as all hacking, right? I'm just going to go out there and I'm just going to hack the world and hack the Gibson and, all this other stuff, right? And they forget that at some point in time, you have to write a report, and that report has to articulate what you did. And then you probably have to present said report to somebody at that point in time so that they understand the risk of you hacking into that system. Those are all soft skills. And it's amazing how like pen testers want to be the greatest pen testers in the world. And then they get to that point and they're like, you had a vulnerability. It was a CVS 10 of 10. I used Metasploit module, blah, 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 blah. I got an interpreter shell. I escalated. I dumped your credentials. And then I got domain controller. Thank you. Pay me. Like, no, that's not like you're missing literally 70% of the point of a pen test because you can't communicate. And so like, I would definitely say, especially as you grow up in this industry, as you get to that CISO level, as you get to that executive leadership level, you're going to spend more time in front of people with C's in front of their names. You're going to spend more time in front of people who sit on your board of directors for your company, who are there to oversee and make sure that you're moved in the right direction. And I think that communication skill is going to help you to be able to pair that again with your business skill to be able to get the things that you need to, especially at that executive leadership level. You've got to be able to you've got to be able to have a conversation with people who see you as literally the most useless thing in that company. This might be a tangent. We'll let you and the editors decide whether you're going to cut this out or not.
I love it when you go on your tangents, Neal, so go for it.
Oh my God. David, the amount of people that I've seen in the last 2 years, sure, but throughout my career, who think that cybersecurity is the center of the universe in business is insane. Like I saw a meme the other day where it was from an old Comic-Con when the Marvel universe was still going in full swing. Maybe you can find this. Maybe it won't get copyright banned like it did the last time we tried to find a movie reference, right? But it was from an old Comic-Con where where they got all the stars from the MCU that kind of walk into the Comic-Con, and you've got like, Chris Evans walks in like this, and Samuel L. Jackson walks in like this, and Scarlett Johansson walks in like this, and then Robert Downey Jr. walks into the room and he throws off half of his sports jacket and he's like, I'm Robert Downey Jr. And he whips open a briefcase and he takes roses out and he throws them to the audience and he's like all flamboyant and everything else. Cybersecurity people think that they're Robert Downey Jr. They think when they walk into a room, everybody's looking at them being like, hallelujah. And that that disillusion about where we fall in the corporate food chain couldn't be further from the truth.
Happens with a lot of niches. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you realize that when you walk into a room, actually half the people in that room are groaning at you and are like, "Oh, geez, not this guy again." Right? Oh, he's going to tell us we can't deploy this application because it's got one CVSS 7 vulnerability on it. We've got a guy, bug bountying us for, DMARC on our email. We should pay him a $10,000 bounty for that, right? When, you've got a guy who's saying like, oh, you can't, implement MFA because MFA will make everybody's life harder, right? In a 200,000 person company, like you got to realize you're not the center of the corporation's universe. And so having that communication skill, I say all this not to dissuade people from going into cyber. I say all this to say, this is why communication skills are important, is because you're going to have to go into a contentiously, battle zone of sociopolitics that if you're not able to communicate with, you're going to be ill prepared for.
I mean, business is not there to just keep the cyber guys happy. They're there to make money. And I think a lot of them would view cyber as holding them back. So it's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. I want the last piece of kind of overall advice that I want to give as you start to move up through kind of that those ranks as you go from hands-on and analyst to mid-manager, executive, and hopefully eventually to the CISO level. I want to talk about the technical side of being an executive. This is a hard one, right? And I know that there's going to be some people who, we've mentioned a couple of them, here, today, who probably will disagree with this, but this is one that I believe in, right? I think that we are moving towards a cybersecurity model where we've seen the pendulum swing too far to the business side, where we've had people who have had zero cybersecurity experience, who've spent their entire time on the business, be CISOs. And I think we saw the pendulum swing back the other way, where we've had people who were former pen testers and former incident responders who accelerated through their career too fast, and there were overly technical people sitting on CISO and board of director roles who lost the business battle and lost the communication battle because they were overly technical. And I think that there is a world we're coming to where people are trying to find that middle spot. And here's why I think it is, and I come to that conclusion from a very, very unlikely source. The SEC, back to the Security and Exchange Commission, right, in the United States is starting to mandate that boards of directors have people sitting on them with cybersecurity experience. You may start to think that's a good thing. It is a move in the right direction, but I think what that's going to create is it's going to create a rush of people trying to get cybersecurity roles sitting on boards of directors. And I think that's going to create a scenario where you've got, again, CISOs who have tons of business experience, but no real cybersecurity experience, and a ton of really technical folks who don't understand anything about the business. And we're going to slowly continue to come back towards the middle, where you need to have a good mix of understanding the business and understanding technically what's going on. You can't run to the latest technologies just because Gartner says it's in the upper right quadrant, right? You can't run.
Come on, that's a sales pitch for every company. Come on.
It really is. It really is. Oh, we're in the upper right quadrant. You should buy from us. Yep. You can't do that. Like, you can't be that type of person. You can't, just because you saw a banner for it at RSA for XDR, just because you saw Palo Alto's XOR, XDR, blah, 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 blah. You got to run back to the company and be like, we got to put that in, right? Because Palo Alto said it was the next greatest thing. And I saw it on a banner at RSA, right? Like, you got to be smarter than that, guys, girls, right? You got to be smarter than that. You got to be able to, you have to be able to see technology and think about the threats and think about the implication of that technology and think about how that technology is going to impact your organization. ChatGPT and AI, and I know you and I have done it. I think you and I did an entire video on AI at one point in time, back before the ChatGPT thing blew up. But ChatGPT is a fantastic example of that, right? How do you understand enough about generative AI to be able to tell your organization or to be able to advise your organization? Or are you just reading everybody else's paranoia about ChatGPT and be like, oh my God, ChatGPT bad. And then you run out there and you immediately block ChatGPT. Do you understand what the business benefits could be, so that if the business comes back to you and says, we have to get on this generative API or generative AI, do you understand enough about the technology to say, okay, how do I enable you to take that risk? And I think that there's a balance of business and technical. And so my third piece is don't lose that technical edge. Don't lose it. But also find a way to balance the needs of the business with just the absolute utter genius that some of you are going to have in this technology space. Find a way to balance it, because I think you are going to be the next evolution of CISOs out there when you can expertly balance that business acumen and that technical knowledge.
That's brilliant. Neal, I love it when you share and you get excited because you're sharing from your heart and from passion. And, your journey in the last 10 months or so really takes it to another level, I think, because when you go through hard times, and I mean, I can't say I've been through anything like you've been through. Some of the hardest is when I almost lost my daughter, and that was very close. It crystallizes your thinking very quickly, and all the noise just goes out the window and you just focus, right? And I really appreciate you, even though you've been through such a hard time, that you're willing to still share with all of us. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And what I'll say is I will be back to streaming. I've been on and off to streaming. I've been on and off streaming, since January. I will come back to streaming. I want to do more of these with you. I'm finally to a point mentally where I can focus on thoughts like this and focus on and again, back to perspective, right? I mean, I said this on stream. If I only have 12 more months to live, dear God, David, you and I got a lot of work to get everything that's in here out to the world.
Exactly.
Like I am now more motivated than ever to give everything that's in here, all this stuff that we talked about, like not being able to do a surf war. We got to find a way to get this stuff out of my head and give it to people, because like I will not leave this earth without, transferring all this knowledge to somebody somewhere somehow.
So that brings us to the point about, how do people find you, Neal? Are you streaming on Twitch? Are you on YouTube? Are you on Twitter? Can you give us your socials? Tell people where they can go, tap into your mind and all your experience.
I'm still streaming, but I'm not streaming at the frequency that I was streaming before. I'm basically streaming on a very much an ad hoc basis.
Okay.
And a lot of that just has to do with we tried to stream the entire month of February. We went back to like our full stream schedule in February, and it damn near killed me. The amount of effort that it took to stream at that with everything that I've got going on was just unsustainable. And so we decided that, I would stream no more than every Friday. So what I've been focusing on, and this is something you and I talked about kind of in the early days, was a lot of that short format stuff. So I've got 2 Instagram channels. I've got my personal Instagram channel, but I have a cyber and security Instagram channel. And I've been doing 90-second cyber snippets on Instagram.
Well done.
And so, I'll take something out of the news that I see, and I'll be like, I'm going to give you 90 seconds of Neal's opinion of something that I see on the news. And so, I've been doing that. You'll notice I got a putter and a putting green over here.
I've seen the photos. Yeah.
Yeah. I've decided, we talk about perspective, right? I've decided that, again, I don't know how long I have to live, right? Cybersecurity is not a priority to me anymore. My family has always been number one priority, and cybersecurity has always come in, very close second to that.
So it should be.
I've decided kind of on that physical fitness journey, and realizing how important my physical health is. I haven't had a drink. I haven't had an alcohol drink since Black Hat.
Wow.
It's been almost a year since I've had a glass of alcohol. And a lot of that has been because the doctor has said how detrimental it could be for me.
Yeah.
I've been exercising like a mofo, and I've taken up more serious stance on golf. And I have a goal. I have a personal goal to play in the PGA, if I live that long, in the seniors tour when I turn 50. So I got to live for 6 more years.
Go for it, man. Come on.
And I want to participate in the seniors tour at the PGA. And so I have decided that all of my extra effort, all the extra effort that I would typically put into making content for YouTube, all the extra effort that I'd put into streaming, all the extra effort is going to be towards something physically and mentally important to me,
well done.
which golf has kind of golf has kind of taken that over. And so this is why I'm telling you this, is because one of the goals that I think I have for this year, and I'll tell you this, if you want to be in on this goal with me, I want to crowdsource my journey to the PGA. Meaning I want to, and I have a ridiculous amount of transparency that I can and will share with you about how I'm going to do that. But I'm starting so late in life. I don't come from a golf pedigree, so I'm starting very much like a lot of our cyber viewers are, right? A lot of the stuff that we hear from people who are coming into cyber industry. I'm doing that with golf. I don't know anybody in the PGA. I don't have any friends in the PGA. I don't have anybody who works in golf. I don't know anybody who works in golf. And golf is a highly political, highly networked, highly, exclusive type of membership. And it's expensive. It costs anywhere from $250 to $2,500 to compete in some of these championships to be at the PGA level. And so I'm really trying to build a social presence. And a lot of that is geared towards, one last goal before I depart this earth. And so if I were to say what I'd like to have happen is I'd like to promote my personal Instagram account. I'd like to promote the Cyber and Security Instagram account, the Cyber and Security Twitch channel. Those three socials. And then I'd like to do a plug for my golf journey. And I'd like to kind of give a similar plug in a shorter version of what I just told you, and just ask that if people are interested in supporting me through that, obviously they can still go to Cyber and Security and get all the cyber news and advice that's over there on the Cyber and Security Instagram channel. But also my personal journey, if they want to support me, that I'd appreciate any and all support in that arena too.
Yeah, I mean, so from my point of view, Neal, I'm glad you shared that. Life is about friends and about more than just techie stuff. So I'm glad that you're sharing that. And for everyone who's watching, please go and subscribe. Please go and show your love to, Neal, for sharing stuff, even in very dark times. And Neal, please keep us up to date with the journey on the golf. I'm really glad you're doing that. And please let me know when you can come back. I really want you to come back and share more, like brain dump all that knowledge and experience, and teach all of us the stuff that you can't learn in books.
Let's make a commitment. Let's make a commitment that you can be the archaeologist that digs through the trove of stuff that's up here. And if we need to find a way to codify this and keep this living for as long as we need to, it's yours. You can have exclusive rights to the details that's in my head for your channel if you want it. Comment below if that sounds like a good plan. But I want some place for this stuff to live. I think if I were to ask for anything, I think it would be like, hey, listen, golf has been a huge mental and physical distraction, both to cancer and to some of the stresses that I've just been under in general. And so I'd appreciate any support anybody's willing to give in that arena.
That's brilliant. Neal, thanks so much for sharing.
Absolutely.